You Decide 2020, both former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders crisscrossing the U.S., aiming to win over those voters, both scoring some important endorsements over the weekend. Former candidate Senator Kamala Harris endorsing Joe Biden, Reverend Jesse Jackson endorsing Bernie Sanders. Let's check in with Ryan Elijah now with former State Senate President Mike Haridopolos talking about the latest developments. Guys?
Yeah, Bob, good morning. And Mike, good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. So let's start with this race. What a difference it's taken in a turn. I'm looking at the polls, and they don't look great for Bernie Sanders, although he points out last year in Michigan, last term, he was down 20 points. He still beat Hillary Clinton there.
Exactly. He's got another day on Tuesday. It was his turnaround back in 2016, which made it a really hotly contested race with Hillary Clinton. But this is a different cycle. He now it's Joe Manchin versus Bernie trying to survive, and he has put the squad into play to try to help him out in places like Michigan. Didn't work in Minnesota, but this is a remarkable race where the less you see Joe Biden, the more you like him. It's the most remarkable thing, because in Iowa and New Hampshire, Biden flops. And yet in places he does not show up to, he's doing really well, because he is seen as the antidote to socialism, I think, at this point, where I know Bernie has his supporters, but in general, Biden's seen as the establishment pick. All the establishment politicians are getting behind him. I think he's going to win the nomination, barring a considerable number of new gaffes, which it seems like he's making constantly.
Yeah, we heard Biden's firewall in South Carolina. It feels like Bernie's is going to have to be Michigan. He's going to have to win. And coronavirus has changed this race, not only and eventually when we get to November, but it has taken a really different turn, whether it's the economic factor or the health factor.
Oh, it really is. I mean, this is the tragedy of all this is that this virus is serious. And don't get me wrong, my wife's going to be talking about it later today in your broadcast. But remember, let's put this in perspective. 500 people approximately in the United States have acquired this terrible virus, but a very small death rate, and it's among the cohorts of the older population. But it has led to what might be a worldwide economic downturn because of all the fears this occurred.
Yeah, we see oil selling off today. It's great if you're filling up your gas in your car, but it's very bad for the rest of the economy.
Oh, yeah, your 401k has taken a huge hit over the last couple of weeks, and we're going to see an economic downturn. Central Florida economy going to take a hit because of the cruise lines and Disney. This is a real economic crisis, as big as it is maybe a medical crisis.
Yeah, and we're going to talk next hour about what state lawmakers do when they have these. You talk about the rainy day fund when they have these things, but looking forward to the Florida primary now. It seems like Biden would have the momentum here as well.
He has the momentum without doubt. The thing that's going to hurt him right now, in my opinion, on March 15th, there is a debate in Arizona, a 2-hour debate. Can he sustain himself? Because we've seen one gaffe after another over the last couple weeks. And people are starting to ask the question, what's going on there? He's got the teleprompter, but he's still making these gaffes. I think the way to really help him right the ship long term is, can he sustain that 2-hour debate with Bernie Sanders one-on-one? This isn't that 8-person free-for-all. This is one-on-one Bernie Sanders, and having to be competent for those full 2 hours.
We'll wait and see. So much to talk about, Mike, if you'll stick around in the 8 o'clock hour. We're going to talk about the state issues, including what do they do with coronavirus now and funding. One of many issues we'll talk about the final week of the legislative session. That's coming up at 8 o'clock. Amy and Bob?